Hello everybody and welcome to another Twilight Zone review. Today it is Season 2, Episode 8, The Lateness of the Hour, written by Rod Serling and starring Inger Stevens as Jana and John Hoyt as Dr. Lauren. Now let me just say that I think there's a good episode hidden somewhere in Lateness of the Hour based on the concept and the idea. Unfortunately, the execution of this episode just doesn't work, in my opinion, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first, I feel it is important to mention that this is the first of 6 videotaped episodes that aired on television. During Season 2, it was decided that to save some money on the budget, that a few of the episodes, instead of being shot on film, would be shot on videotape. The quality is very noticeable, the difference in quality, and it gives the show more of a theatrical feel as opposed to a television feel. And while I like theater, I don't really think it fit Twilight Zone that well. With that being said, I don't think that's the main issue with this episode. I don't think this episode could have been saved even with film. So with that being said, I'll go through the plot, which is very basic and very padded. So we start with our main character, Jana. And she's asking about a picture in a book, and she notices that, the people look the same in it as they do now. And it's also brought up, you can tell this girl, this young woman isn't happy. And it's brought up that everything in the house is perfect. The ceilings are the perfect height. The temperature's perfect. The chairs are done perfectly. I never knew there was a perfect height for a chair for comfort. But you learn something new every day. So she goes on and on about how she wants to go out in the world and see something different. She's tired of being confined to being inside. She wants to go to a restaurant. Her father, who's also introduced in the scene, is a doctor, and he explains they're safer, inside. If we go outside, who knows what'll happen. So you can tell these people don't really ever leave the house, which is pretty odd. So Jana's obviously frustrated. She talks about how all there is in the house is secret. She pushes down a maid. At this point, it's already pretty obvious what's going on to me anyway. I believe it was even the first time that I watched this episode. So anyway, Rod Serling tells us that all these people, the maid, the butler, all these people that Jana's unhappy about, they're all robots who were created by the doctor. So in the next scene, Jana and the doctor have a talk. It's basically very similar to the first talk they had. Why we needed another one, I don't know. He says he protected her from war and poverty and all these things. Her argument is that if she gets out in the world, she'll at least be able to experience things and live. Then Jana basically gives an ultimatum. She says she wants all the robots destroyed. And, the doctor, her father, tries to explain to her that, they have life to them. And Jana says they're all toys. Basically, they just repeat the same things over and over and over. And she says she will leave. She threatens to leave the house, forever and not come back if she doesn't get her way. So we go to the second part of the episode, and she's in her room getting ready to leave. The doctor pleads with her to stay. He's trying to convince her, so finally it comes to the point where she won't stay. So he says he'll do as she wishes and turn all the robots off. That was pretty easy. And, of course, the robots get upset, but the doctor does it anyway. He turns them all off. And we see Jana smiling. She's a pretty unlikable character at this point, the way she's written. And then we go to the final scene where the doctor, her mother, and Jana are all in a room alone. And, Jana wants to know, she's happy now because she says she'll be able to have children, find a man, everything will be normal. And, her mother has a worried look on her face, as does the doctor. And then she wants to know, she goes back to the photo album from the beginning, wants to know why there's no pictures of her as a little girl. And at this point, if it wasn't already painfully obvious, we find out that Jana is also a robot. And the problem with this is, besides being obvious, as the way the character's been written, I think we're supposed to feel sympathy for her. but she actually comes across more as an annoying and unsympathetic character, which means I don't really care or feel bad for her. And when we get the final twist, we see Jana is now the new maid because the doctor had to reprogram her, so she wouldn't keep acting this way, I guess. Who really knows? It doesn't really matter. There's nothing exciting about this. I don't think the acting in this episode's particularly good either. I don't think Inger Stevens or John Hoyt are that effective. I think she overacts to compensate for her character not being written that interesting. And I think he actually underacts the part a little bit. He doesn't seem very excited or interested in anything that's going on. And for someone who created robots, I would think he would be a little more interesting. I feel like there were some good ideas in this episode, but they weren't executed well. None of the characters other than Jana really have any motivation. They're not fleshed out. The whole thing hinges on her character, which unfortunately is just not that interesting. This isn't the worst Twilight Zone episode. I guess there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it. There's not the huge leaps in logic that some other episodes take, but it's just not interesting, which sometimes is the worst thing of all. And I give The Lateness of the Hour a 1.5 out of 5. So 1.5 out of 5 for this episode. I don't recommend it unless you're a completionist and you have to watch every episode. And this is a poor episode in what's been a very up and down season 2. Thanks for watching.